Welcome to English 3. This is class number 12, and I am Jillian Percy. These are all the ways you can reach me. I'm in the studio right now and can be reached at 1-800-465-7144. If you need to reach me when I'm not in the studio, 1-800-667-3703. If you need to fax work, 1-800-463-7852. If you want to email me your work, jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. And if you want to rewatch a recording, YouTube, capital G, capital P, ERCY, space, capital W, AHSA. All right, as always, we're going to start with a little bit of grammar. So there's an item in grammar called a prefix. A prefix is like a little mini word that we add to the beginning of a verb, and it changes the meaning. Usually it's not something you'd see by itself. So for example, the prefix re means to do something over again. And when we add it to the front of a verb, it means you're doing the subject over again. So for example, redo, review, reread, retie, rewind, refill, repark, reheat, repot, renew, repaint, reupholster, retrace, rewash, recheck, sorry. So if you saw the re in front of a new word that you didn't know very well, you would just be able to figure it out by going, well, I know re means do it over. So I know that whatever this word means, I'm going to have to, it's talking about doing it over. All right. Some other common prefixes are un. Un can mean both not, like somebody doesn't have something, or it can mean to reverse. So if I say unbelief, it's like they don't believe. Unafraid, not afraid. Unhappy, not happy. Unhealthy, not healthy. Unkind, not kind. Unimportant, not important. And unsure, not sure. But it can also mean to reverse. So untie doesn't mean it's not tied. It means I've undone it, which I then have next, right? Undo and undone. Untangle. So it was tangled. I'm going to be in the process of undoing that tangle. Unpack, unlock, unwrap, unfold. So in this kind of instant, it's not that it's not done. It's that it's been done and now you have to reverse it and undo it. That is just the beginning. Those are kind of the most basic ones. But here's a bunch of ones that are maybe familiar to you, may not be. The prefix a or an means without or a lack of or not. And some examples would be amoral, acellular, abyss, achromatic. Achromatic would be like lack of color, amoral, a lack of morals. Ante. Ante means before or earlier. So an antecedent, antedate, anti-meridian. All right. Now, this is a little bit different. Ante and anti, they sound pretty similar though, really. Against. So an anticlimax, an anti-aircraft, antiseptic, antibody, right? Something that fights those. Auto. Auto is like the self or the same. So an autopilot would mean like the pilot is piloting, the plane is piloting itself. An autobiography, a story about yourself. An automobile, it moves by itself rather than needing like a horse, right? Circum is like around or about. So circumvent, circumnavigate, circumscribe. Co is like with or together. The most common one would be obviously cooperate, co-pilot, co-worker, coexist, co-author. Come or con both mean the same thing, together or with. A companion, commingle, contact, concentrate. I have no idea why they use both, but they do. Contra or contro, again, means against or opposite. Contradict, contrast, contrary, controversy. So if I said she is anti-military, well, I know anti means against, so she's against the military. That medicine is contraindicated with that disease. Well, contra means also against, just for the way it worked out. It's contraindicated, like you wouldn't use that medicine with that disease, okay? Some other examples, DE, down or off or away from, to devalue, deactivate, debug, degrade, deduce. Dis, another one that means kind of not or apart or away, like disappear, disagreeable, disbar, dissect. N means to like put something into a thing or cover it, like an enclose, an envelope, entangle, enslave, encase. Ex, out of, or it's from, or it's the former. So you're going to extract, exhale, exit, excavate, ex-president. Extra is more like beyond, outside. It's more than. Extracurricular, extramarital, extravagant. Hetero means it's different or it's other. So heterosexual, heterodox, heterogeneous. Homo or homeo means the same or alike. A homonome, sometimes it's homonome, homophone, homeostasis. Okay. It means it's the same in some way. Hyper, over or more beyond. You could be hyperactive, hypersensitive, hypercritical. This is like 4 different ones, but they all have kind of the same idea. IL, IM, IN, and IR all mean the idea of not or without. So illegal, immoral, inconsiderate, irresponsible. Now, here's another type of in where it actually just means in, like insert, inspection, infiltrate. And inter means between or among, intersect, interstellar, intervene, interpenetrate. And if it said something like, Captain, start the engine's hyperdrive or we will never escape. Well, hyper is over beyond our normal drive, right? You hear this kind of thing in sci-fi movies. So it's an extra drive, right? They tried to enslave the alien. Well, we know what slave means. En would mean that they tried to put him into slavery. Okay. Here we've got intra and intro as within or inside. Intravenous, intragalactic, introvert. Macro is like large or prominent, macroeconomics, macro structure, macrocosm. Micro is the opposite. Micro is very small, microscope, microcosm, microbe. Mono is like one or single or alone. A monocule should be like one glass. A monologue is one person speaking. Monogamy is one person having one partner. Monotony, one thing that's kind of boring. Non is not or without. A non-entity, non-aggressive, non-essential, non-fiction. Omni is like all or every. It's often used in reference to God, not always, but omniscient, they're talking about like knows everything. Omnivorous would be eats everything. This is the same one, I think. Omnidirectional, it can go in all directions. Maybe the robot is omnidirectional. Post is after or behind. Postmortem, posterior, postscript, postoperative. Pre or pro both mean before or forward. Proceed, predict, project, prologue. So if I say I need to preview my lessons before I teach them, what does that mean? Well, view means to look at. Preview means to look at them before I go to teach them. He used the macro lens on the camera. Well, what do you think the macro lens does? Probably makes things big, right? Because that's large. All right, last page of this. Sub is under or lower, like submarine, subsidiary, substandard. Sim or sin both mean at the same time or together, like symmetry, symposium, synchronize, synapse. Tele means from a long distance, so telecommunications, telemedicine, television, telephone. Trans is across or beyond, or the idea of going through something. I'm going to transmit the radio waves. I'm going to have a transaction with money. I'm going to get a translation of the language. I'm going to transfer to a new school. Tri means 3 or every third. Tricycle, trimester, triangle, triathlon. You can see sometimes the pronunciation of it changes slightly when there's different letters behind it. I can't really help that. That's just kind of how the language works. We've already talked about. Uni. It looks just like that, but this one we say uni, that one is un. Uni is like one, like a unicorn, unicellular, unicycle, unilateral. And up means obviously up to the top. It can also mean like up as in better or higher, like upbeat, updo, upgrade, upload, uphill, upstage, upscale, or up tempo. So the drill on that machine is unidirectional. What does that really mean? Well, it means it can go in any direction, right? It's not just fixed in one place. It is a subterranean bunker. Well, terrain would mean like ground. So subterranean means it's under the ground, right? So that's what I'm talking about, just that the prefixes can help you figure out new or unusual words. All right. So we have 3 more classes left for this unit. Today is class 12, and we should kind of get through all of this stuff for class 12. And then you've got class 13, and for some reason, 13 and I should say 14, sorry, apologize. Anyways, if you get finished this stuff quickly, just go on to some of the next stuff, right? All right, so in the textbook called Making It Work, there is a character sketch on page 37 to 40. In most stories, the characters are what drive all the action. It's a good story anyways. If the characters are strong and believable, the story will be believable too. Of course, if the characters are poorly written or seem shallow or poorly thought out, that's going to affect the story as well too. A character sketch is a tool that helps you think about how and why the character acts. It also makes you think about how important points about the character's actions create and resolve the conflict of the story. It is basically a paragraph or a series of paragraphs that describe a character in a story. So I want to make this clear because I was a little bit confused when I first read this myself. It isn't something you're reading, it's something you're writing about something that you've read yourself or you've viewed. Like I could write a character sketch of Thor. I'm not writing a play about Thor. I'm looking at what I've seen about Thor online and creating a character sketch of his character based on what I've seen. Okay. So it's kind of like the reader's or the viewer's response to what they're seeing. It's not them writing it independently. Authors can reveal important things about a character by describing their physical appearance or their manner. They can show what the character says or how he says it. They can show the character's strengths and weaknesses through his or her actions. What other characters say about the character. And they can also reveal important things by talking about the character's inner thoughts about himself. So, for example, if I'm talking about a woman walks in the room and she's wearing 4 layers of clothing and she smells like pee and her hair's messy and there's dirt on her face. Well, I'm already telling you some things like, why is she wearing so many clothes? Does that mean she's homeless? Is that why she doesn't smell good either? Just describing how she looks, I'm already getting to you across something about the character. If I tell you what the character says and how they say it, right? Like if the character walks in and says, "Oh, I knew it was going to be you," and they say it like, "Oh, I knew it was going to be you. I'm so glad you're here," or "Oh, I knew it was going to be you. I always think the worst of you," that kind of thing, right? Showing the character's strengths or weaknesses through his or her actions. That's kind of the most common one. If you start a movie and the main character is happily stealing from a store or he's killing somebody, well, right away, you haven't had to hear anything from them. You already know something about their strengths and their weaknesses. What the other characters say about the character. Sometimes maybe you have like an ex-wife or something that are like, oh yeah, they seem nice now, but in the past they used to do, and they tell you a whole bunch of information. Or a cop comes on the screen and says about a character, well, yeah, but you know what that person's really like. So sometimes they use other characters to tell you stuff about a main character. And of course, the character has their own thoughts about what they think about themselves, what they think about others. And those things tell you a lot about the character as well. Okay. So here is how to write a draft of your character sketch using information from your outline. Organize your sketch into paragraphs using the suggestions below. So here they'd have an introductory paragraph where you identify the character, the title of the text where the character appears, and briefly describe the character's situation and conflict. So for example, I'm going to use Thor just because he's on my brain, I don't know why. Thor, and he was in the movie Thor, and he shows up and he's been banished to Earth and he's trying to get his way back, but he doesn't have access to some of his tools. Anyways, you would just describe things kind of generally. Body paragraph number 1, describe the character's physical appearance. That could be things about like how tall they are, what size they are, what color their hair is, how their hair is styled, what their clothes are like. Brainstorm a variety of adjectives that could be used to help envision the character. Same kind of thing, basically. Body paragraph number 2, describe the character's personality with evidence from the story. Think about their actions and their manner. So what do we know about this person from what we've seen happen in the story? It can be their words, it can be how they act towards other people, how they think. Body paragraph number 3, include any other information that you think is important, such as the character's motivation. Really common theme you'll see in some movies is where the character in the first 5 minutes you find like someone's stolen their daughter, and then 90% of the movie is them fighting and killing people trying to get their daughter back. If you hadn't seen that first 5 minutes to know their motivation, that they're trying to get back to their daughter, you might just think this character is pure evil. But because you know that motivation, it changes how you think about the character. Body paragraph number 3, we had that already. Yeah, we did. Sorry. Conclusion. Explain why the character acts as he or she does in this story, or if you haven't yet finished the story, predict what you think the character will do to solve the conflict. So that's about 5 paragraphs. Basically, you've got an intro, a conclusion, and 3 body paragraphs or main paragraphs in the middle describing the character. Step 4 in writing a character sketch is revise the draft, checking for spelling, grammar, and correct word usage. As you're doing all this, think about how you feel about the character. Think about how the author feels about the character. Sometimes the author might be trying to show you this person is a bad guy, and you're thinking, no, I totally sympathize. I see why they're doing that. I disagree. I don't think he's a bad guy. And it can go the opposite. Sometimes they're saying this is a good guy, and you're like, yeah, you know what? I don't think they're good anymore if they're doing all these things. So you're allowed to disagree with the author. Look for the character's strengths and weaknesses. We were talked about that already, but okay. So here is an example from our textbook. And this is a character sketch of a story called Prodigal Summer. And it's written by Barbara Kingsolver. So let's see if it's got all the parts that we were just talking about. It says, Deanna Wolf is the main character in Barbara Kingsolver's Prodigal Summer. Living alone and working as a forest ranger, she finds the solitary existence she loves threatened by the intrusion of hunters seeking the stealthy coyote families thought to live in her woods. So they've covered the intro. They've told you who the character is, what story they're in. They've told you the basic problem facing them. Then they go on to describe the character. Deanna is in her 40s with long, dark gray streaked hair. She is tall, slim, and muscular. Okay, short, but it's there. Then they go on to describe the character's personality. Deanna has a keen understanding of and love for nature. She uses nature's signs both on the land, animal tracks and waste, and in the sky, shifting winds, the smell of rain, to measure the pace of her days. She delights in nature's changes, for example, new flowers in bloom. She is, however, uncomfortable with other people. She makes sure to be out of her cabin when her monthly food and mail delivery arrives. Sorry, I'm trying not to cough in front of you guys. I apologize. I got this long-term cold I can't seem to shake here. At the same time, she's attracted both physically and emotionally to Eddie Bondo, the hunter who suddenly appears on her land one day. So all of this is given some description of what she's like on the outside and what she's like on the inside. Then it talks about their conflict. Deanna is fascinated by coyotes and their societies and desperately wants to be sure they can safely survive in the wild. But while she seeks them to observe them, she fears that Eddie has come to kill them. She is torn between her love for nature and her love for Eddie, her understanding of coyotes and his understanding of them. Deanna acts the only way she knows how. She acts to preserve herself and other species while knowing she must give up something along the way. That's a bit vague. I don't know if that's taken from somewhere or if the person just hasn't finished reading the story. I would say it's got the most of the parts. Might have spent a little bit more time talking about how she looks, kind of clothes she wears, that kind of thing. The only thing unexpected to me was I thought the conclusion was a bit vague. That'd be the big thing. Okay. So yesterday we asked you to read Bliss at the Burger Bar on pages 65 to 72 in The Road Ahead. Today you're going to work on a character sketch, just like we just read, for the main character in Bliss at the Burger Bar. And that character sketch is going to be worth 15 marks. Okay. So we just talked about the character sketch. In your textbook, there is this little graphic organizer. Okay. And this graphic organizer gives you a way to just kind of think about what you want to say about the character. If I were you, I would maybe ask the DEC in your area to give you a photocopy of this, or you could just kind of reproduce it on a blank notebook page if you wanted to. So it says step 1, gather information for a character sketch using a diagram like the one on the next page. So there's a spot here for physical appearance. There's a spot here for their personality and evidence from the story about their personality. Motivation. What is driving the character's actions, right? Are they trying to get money? Are they trying to keep someone safe? Are they trying to accomplish some big goal? What is your evidence from the story? That's what they're doing. Okay. What others may think or feel about the character. So name of the character, what they say or think. And what's the big conflict? What is it? Who's created the conflict? How does the character feel about being in the situation? Sometimes there may be two conflicts. So I'm thinking of a movie Twister. I don't know if you guys have seen it. In it, like the main kind of conflict is about this woman trying to capture information about tornadoes, but there's kind of a secondary conflict between her and one of the other main scientists. So I might discuss both those conflicts if they're both important, right? How does the character feel about being in this situation? So that just kind of gives you some jot notes that you can then use to create your character sketch. Just see if there's any more information. I think that was kind of it. Yeah, that was it. Okay. After that assignment, we've got the next one. Page 73 to 75 in The Road Ahead is called Hey, I Need a Job. And this article suggests that there's a 3-step process to finding a job. Think about what kinds of jobs you find interesting. Why do those jobs interest you? And what are you already good at? Okay. What are some things you like to do? They list some, and then I kind of added some too because I thought they kind of didn't mention enough. Do you like to work with people? Do you like to work with your hands, building things or fixing things? Do you like to work with computers and technology? Do you prefer to work in a team, or do you like working on your own? Would you rather work in the daytime or at night? Do you like working inside or outside? Do you like talking to people? Do you want to sell ideas or products? Do you like reading or writing? Some things they didn't mention. Some people like to organize papers, people, or places. Maybe you like working with animals or working with design or color. Maybe you like growing things or inventing things. Or maybe you like learning about how the world works, like science, or conducting experiments. Maybe you like driving or operating machines. Maybe you encourage people or counsel people. Maybe you like nursing or taking care of others. Those are all examples of things you might like to do. And even if you are, not yet an adult, you've had opportunities to do many of those things, right? Working with animals could be something as simple as taking care of your pets. Counseling others could be maybe you're the person in your friend group that everybody goes to when they're having a hard time. Taking care of others, maybe you're the one that can be counted on to take care of Gukum or Shumis, or can be counted on to take care of the baby. So all of these things are things that you may do at home already, and that maybe if it's something you really like doing, you could translate into a job. Okay, there's a section called Why Do I Want a Job, which I kind of thought funny, and it just made me think of this meme where the interviewer says, "Why do you want this job?" And she says, "Me. Well, I've always been passionate about being able to afford food." So realistically, although there's many different things that might cause me to choose what type of work I do, the reason most of us hold a job is to pay our bills and pay for essentials like food, electricity, and water. However, having said that, I will now list the reasons that they mention, but I kind of feel like this is probably the big one, but maybe that's just me. Reasons why people work. Here are their reasons: to make money, to get experience, to get respect, to save for a car, for something to do, to have freedom, to be independent, to save for school, because friends have jobs, to pay rent and bills, to save for a trip, or to learn about a potential career. So going back to my own personal theory, how many of these have to do with needing money for some reason or another? I'm gonna grab my trusty outlining tool. Let me see here. All right, and I'm going to go up here and grab green for money. To make money? Oh, did it do it? Oh, why is it not letting me do it? Hang on. Oh, that's weird. All right. Oh, there we go. All right. To get experience? No. To get respect? No. To save for a car, basically, is our money, right? For something to do? No. To have freedom. I wonder what they mean with that. I'm going to assume that they mean having the money to have an apartment of your own, which again would mean money. To be independent, again, I'm taking that the same way, that you're wanting to live on your own and therefore you need some money. To save for school. In the States, school can be super expensive. It's still kind of pricey here, but not as expensive as somewhere else. And if you're going to school away from home, you'll need a place to live and all that kind of stuff. Because friends have jobs, no. To pay rent and bills, also basically money. To save for a trip, money. So my theory about money kind of holds to me. um, some of these other ones are kind of social things. So, for example, because friends have jobs, for something to do. To learn about a potential career is kind of a funny one. It's kind of in the area of trying something out to see if it's something you want to do later, right? Before you take, 3 years at college learning how to be a nurse, you might want to volunteer at a hospital and find out whether you actually like it. Otherwise, you've spent a lot of time, money to discover, oh, you know what, I thought I was okay with these kind of things, but actually I don't enjoy this work. Um, to get respect, I'm not sure what that means. For something to do, sure. If you're not, there's some work that's quite interesting. Why not do that work? I mean, I imagine being a doctor is super interesting, or being a race car driver or a pilot. So, I do find it really odd that at no point do they mention enjoying the work that you do, which to me goes a long way to making work something you look forward to. Like, I love being with people, I love being with kids. It's one reason why I went into teaching. If I didn't enjoy kids, teaching would be the wrong job to get into. Even if I was good at it, it wouldn't matter. don't do a job that you hate. If you hate math, don't get a job doing finance. If you can't stand blood and other bodily fluids, do not go into nursing. So, as you are thinking about jobs, think about what you love and what you hate and help that guide you into making career choices. I do know people who have sometimes gone into jobs because they were good at something, but they hated it. You don't want to do a job for the next 30 or 40 years that you hate just because you're good at it. Pick one that you are good at and that you like. All right. And then they list some typical jobs for young people. There's kind of like big categories, and then there's examples. So the big categories would be retail job, and you could get a job in shops, mall stores, grocery stores, gas stations, and movie theaters. So retail jobs, you're dealing with the public, you're probably working cash, you might be doing a little bit of stocking. Service jobs, these are things where you're doing something rather than just handling money. Waiters, bussers, cooks, hosts, porters, front desk attendants at like a hotel, servers, which are like waiters to me, cashiers, dishwashers. These are often restaurant jobs. They might be jobs like on a train or a plane or in a hotel, but things where you're providing a service. General labor jobs. These are the kind of jobs where a lot of times they're looking for muscle. They're looking for somebody to do something. Painting, window cleaning, lawn cutting, snow removal, leaf removal, house cleaning, not clearing, landscaping, construction, road crews, warehouse work, factory workers. Short time work, working with temp agencies. I don't know if that's really common up here. Back in Windsor, I had a friend who she kept quite busy working as a secretary for a temp agency because there's always somebody who calls in sick. And if it's a big company, they just call a temp agency and get someone to come in and cover. And it gave her a chance to try out a lot of different places before she picked one place that she really liked. Also, especially if you're a student, summer jobs, right? There's lots of jobs that really only exist in the summertime. Lifeguard, camp counselor, tree planter, tourism workers, tour guides, amusement park workers, babysitting, landscaping, pool care, parks and rec worker. So those are also great ways to find out whether you like doing something, right? So then we have the extra assignment page, and that has some questions relating to the job text we just read. This one, there's two things listed, but you have to pick one. You do not have to do both. I'm going to read them both to you, but you get to pick which one you want to do. Consider the following scenarios. If you are presently employed, either full-time or part-time, describe your job. What is your job? How long have you been in this job? What are your responsibilities? What are the qualifications for this job? What are your likes and dislikes about the job? How long do you plan to stay in this job? All that should take at least 7 sentences that you can definitely go over. Or if you're not employed at the moment, but you're needing and hoping for a job, describe what you would like. What kind of job are you most interested in and why? Is this job available locally? And what qualifications are required? I wanted to touch on is the job available locally? So let's say you wanted to be an actor. There's not a lot of acting jobs up here. Generally, if you want to act and you're in Canada, you're going to either need to go to Toronto or you're going to need to go to Vancouver, right? If you want to pick corn, well, we don't grow a lot of corn up here. Corn's down in Windsor. If you want to make cars, you're going to have to go to a city that creates cars. So not all jobs are available everywhere. You're going to have to kind of look around and see whether the job you're interested in is available in your area or see if you're willing to move. That's a whole other thing. You don't answer both. Pick one, whichever one you want to write. Either is worth 10 marks. When they are asking about qualifications, they're thinking about things like what kind of education level? Do you need to have finished high school? Do you need a university degree? What kind of experience is needed? Sometimes some jobs are geared for somebody right out of college. Other jobs may need 5 or 10 years of experience. Are there any special trainings or certifications you need for this job? That could be things like first aid or a driver's license, heavy machinery training. Maybe there's certain kinds of computer programs you need to know to do the job. So think about what you need to do the job, whether it's a job you're actually doing or a job you would like to do. I grabbed a few examples of job descriptions, just in case you hadn't seen any. So these are from the Sioux Lookout Job Hudson board, in case you're interested. It's a great place to look for work if you're looking for work. For this one, the job title is Youth Outreach Worker. And here is the position overview. Are you self-motivated, passionate about the potential inherent in every person, and able and willing to think outside the box in order to help young people achieve positive outcomes? If yes, we invite you to become a member of our team. The Tikanagan Youth Outreach Team is a newly established dynamic service team dedicated to enhancing the lives of high-risk youth. The team's primary mandate is to outreach and engage youth identified as high risk and support them in making positive life choices. Youth outreach workers will be youth-centered, responsive to the needs of young people and their families when appropriate, and will provide a range of holistic services consistent with achieving positive outcomes. The work of all staff at Tikanagan Child and Family Services is guided by our Mamo Abikwa Awasuin service model, everyone working together to raise our children. And then it lists the qualifications. This employer provides equal employment opportunities for all applicants. Persons of First Nations ancestry will be given preference. We invite applicants to self-identify if Indigenous, Métis, or Inuit. Interested in working with children, youth, and life experiences. Willing to attend training as required. Knowledge of and lived experience with the Indigenous culture. Good verbal and written skills. Ability to speak Oji Cree and Ojibwe is an asset. An asset means it's not something they have to have, but it is a bonus if you have that, and that's something that would be a pivotal thing in hiring. Able to maintain confidentiality, valid driver's license or willingness to obtain driver's license. Travel is a requirement, especially where we live. A valid driver's license can be a really important qualification to have. So if you don't have it, that's one thing you might want to think about trying to get, because it is really useful. Here is a slightly different one. This one has a lot less qualifications. The job title is a rink assistant. I didn't even know such a thing existed. The municipality of Sioux Lookout requires applicants for the position of rink assistant. The rink assistant performs duties related to public skating and general maintenance duties in the arena and recreation area. Responsibilities: monitor ice and ensure the rules and policies are being followed, assist with skate tying if needed, interact and engage with skaters and members of the public, assist in moving hockey nets during ice flooding and shoveling the excess snow after flooding, pick up and remove garbage in all areas, assist in removing snow in all exits of the building as required. And here, qualifications and experience: a valid first aid and CPR preferred, experience working with children. And then it gives you some other information. It goes until April 2024. The rate of pay is $19 an hour. It is a non-union and a non-management position. Hours will vary and may include weekends. So this is just trying to give you an idea of how to write a job description. They're kind of separating everything out line by line. You would put it all together in a paragraph style instead, okay? Okay, and back to the extra assignment page. There is an article on page 82, 83, called "A Good Portfolio Gives You the Interview Edge." It's really short, it's not very long. So question 12, they want you to write a summary of the article called "A Good Portfolio Gives You the Interview Edge." And it should be a paragraph containing at least 6 sentences, and this is worth 10 marks. I wanted to remind you, a summary should include a topic sentence that explains the main idea of the article. Then there should be at least 4 to 6 sentences describing the major points of the article. And finally, it should have a concluding sentence that restates the topic sentence or the main idea of the article that is being summarized. So it always will look like this: a topic sentence, detail 1, detail 2, detail 3, detail 4, as many details as you need to include, and so on. And then a concluding topic sentence. Remember that this sentence should kind of echo the first sentence. There should be similar. We talked about that yesterday, I believe, talked about how to do that. These were just some quick samples of portfolios. Here was a sample of somebody who was a tattoo artist. This is their portfolio. If they were trying to get hired at a tattoo shop, they might bring their portfolio of their different artwork. Here, this is a portfolio of somebody who's an interior designer, and they're showing examples of rooms they've created or the ideas for a room they've created. Different jobs portfolios are more or less common. So for example, teachers might bring examples of rubrics they've made or lessons they've created. Different jobs aren't going to have that. Not every job needs that. If you are, hiring on to be a lifeguard, they probably aren't necessarily going to want to see a portfolio, for example. But think about this. It's something that could be useful. If you do any kind of computer work, I saw some really nice digital ones where people had them online and they just included like a little line on their resume or their cover letter where the employer could go and check out the work that they did online. So if you're good at computers, that's one thing to think about. All right, a writing tip. This is good for this paragraph, but also really any paragraph. It is important in writing a paragraph to have a mixture of sentence structures and length. A series of short, simple sentences can sound choppy and incomplete. A series of consistently long, complex, and compound sentences can make it hard to follow the ideas or the arguments. It can also sometimes be kind of off-putting to read. If you tend to write a lot of short sentences, think about how to combine some of them to help make your paragraph more interesting. If you tend to write long, convoluted sentences, think about how to shorten or condense some of your sentences so the paragraph is easier to understand. Most of us tend towards one way or the other. We tend to write short or we tend to write long. After a while of looking at your own writing, you'll begin to see which one you're prone to. And then whenever you're doing your revision, you start being aware of it and try and counteract it a little bit. Because again, a mixture of sentences sounds best. So I've got a sample one on the next page. Oh, okay. I had a short one too. I'm not sure where it went to. All right, we'll try this one. And then if we have time, I'll try and find the other one. This one's got too many long sentences. And can we fix it? We want to try and shorten things up a little bit. So I'm going to read it and then you guys think about how can we make this shorter. So I find myself thinking about the teacher in the story and wondering what she is thinking of Jimmy and why she is acting the way she does. I see her constantly reaching out to Jimmy in various ways, trying to include him in lessons, trying to talk to him privately, trying to find work that is interesting, trying to leave him alone when that is what he seems to want. I wonder how she views Jimmy, if she thinks he is all messed up, or if he understands where he's coming from, or if maybe she doesn't know what to think. So some of these aren't even compound or complex sentences. They're just straight up run-on sentences. I've just kind of squashed 3 or 4 together. So that would be the first thing you would take a look at. So I find myself thinking about the teacher in the story and wondering what she is thinking about Jimmy. I think that's a sentence all by itself because I've already got the one and. I don't want to add another and. Remember we talked about that, how at that point you're adding a third sentence in and you really only need 2 sentences together. You don't add 3. It becomes too much. I can't just take off the and write why she is acting the way she does, because that doesn't make any sense. But I could write, let me see here. I think she is watching Jimmy and trying to understand why he is acting the way he does. I got confused and switched up my pronouns there. The way he does. I see her. Oh, I don't know what that did. I see her constantly reaching out to Jimmy in various ways. I'm going to make that a period because then I have, gosh, so much more after that. It's too much. It's way too long. I see her constantly reach out to Jimmy in various ways. Now, I give a whole bunch of different ways that she reaches out to him, and I have to think about ways to turn those into sentences of their own without them all sounding the same. So let's see. Um, for example, she keeps trying to include him in lessons, period. Sometimes she is also trying to talk to him privately, period. During math, she was trying to find work that is interesting. And I'm getting tired of hearing the word trying. I don't know what's beginning to bug me. Okay. At first, she keeps talking to him, but later she leaves him alone when that is what I'm just going to say what he wants rather than seems to want. What he wants. Still kind of a long sentence. I might take a look at that again, but it's better than it was. I wonder how she views Jimmy. That's kind of going back to the beginning. I'm gonna change it a little bit. I wonder if she thinks. I wonder if she thinks, and I'm going to put a name back in here, Jimmy, because it's otherwise getting confusing. I wonder if she thinks Jimmy is all messed up. And I'm just going to do a period there. Or I don't want to start the sentence with or. Usually we kind of use that in the middle. Maybe she has seen other students like him and understands where he is coming from. Or maybe she doesn't know what to think. Okay, so remember when we're doing a compound sentence, we add a little comma at the end of the first sentence. Okay, so I'm going to read this back and see if it sounds like how I wanted it to sound. I find myself thinking about the teacher in the story and wondering what she is thinking of Jimmy. I think she is watching Jimmy and trying to understand why he is acting the way he does. I see her constantly reaching out to Jimmy in various ways. For example, she keeps trying to include him in lessons. Sometimes she is also trying to talk to him privately. During math, she was trying to find work that was interesting. At first, she keeps talking to him, but later she leaves him alone. Sorry, not alone, but alone. When that is what he wants. I wonder if she thinks Jimmy is all messed up. Maybe she has seen other students like him and understands where he is coming from, or maybe she doesn't know what to think. So, for these spots where I had examples, I kept trying to find ways to introduce it. Okay. For example, sometimes during math, at first, I believe it was yesterday that we talked about transition words. Hang on a second. Those kind of transition words can really help the flow of your paragraph. Please keep them in mind for the writing assignments that we're doing right now. Okay. I also wanted to give you some encouragement. I know we've got a lot of writing in this course, and I saw this little meme that I thought was cute. It says being a writer is 3% talent and 97% not being distracted by the internet. All right, and one more meme to close. The writing process. Reading inspiration, typing the and deleting it, actual writing, binge snacking, and surfing the internet. And if that's how your writing process looks, don't worry, we have all been there. Hopefully your writing is going well. If you get stuck and you're surfing the internet too much because you're confused, remember to call me if you're having problems with an assignment. I would be happy to help you. Okay. I will talk to you guys tomorrow about the upcoming assignments, and I'm so glad to have talked to you guys today.